What's up everyone? Today I wanted to do a video where I pick out some of my favorite comics and graphic novels and a short series and just share them with you guys. Now these aren't all of my favorite comics of all time and my full end all be all list, but I just wanted to highlight some that aren't, stuff like the bigger things like just main Spider-Man storylines, regular Batman, all that kind of stuff. I just want to highlight some more shorter little contained series and runs and volumes and stuff like that. So the first one is the Charles Soule run of Daredevil from 2016. This one was incredible. That's the A cover. This is the C retailer incentive 1 of 25 copy. This Daredevil comic is the first Daredevil comic I ever read. Back when I first started collecting comics, I fell in love with Daredevil, fell in love with the character. The art in this run is superb. Yeah. I love Blind Spot and Daredevil's dynamic. Samuel, it's really cool, and there's a lot of interesting moments in there and ways he's presented in the story, especially with the hand and stuff like that. And just all the different arcs that slowly compound upon each other and make for a really, really interesting story, and one that I couldn't put down. I remember going back to the comic store every weekend, and the people working there too would be like, man, this series is super good. So definitely one to check out, especially if you love Daredevil. And the Hand and Muse are also villains I wasn't familiar with. I had no idea they even existed back then, and they just both blew me away. They were dark and really well written, and just such interesting villains that really fit into the Daredevil universe really well. And it's just something that's more, they had more to them than just the normal bad guy, so it felt more fun to read. The brutality of villains like Muse is super cool, and especially with the art, he's so well done, and it really kind of sparked my love for Daredevil as a character. Well, yeah, that's basically it for Daredevil. Overall, it was really fun to pick up and, really sink your teeth into a comic like that. So if Daredevil is something you're interested in, that whole 2016 to 2019, 2020 era of Daredevil is superb. It's a really, really good read, and I would highly recommend it. Alright, next is Moon Knight. This is the Bemis, I don't know how to say his last name, run, but it was a short run. It was kind of a thing with the same as Daredevil. I picked it up around the same time because they were both characters I was really interested in. I've heard that the Moon Knight run right before that one, a lot of people liked. This one I liked a lot because it gave me basically an introduction to Moon Knight comics, and I got to learn about his character. Again, he was kind of like Daredevil, like the kind of hero I like, where he's more than just a superhero. He could kind of be considered an anti-hero. His backstory is a lot more convoluted, and the whole split personality, crazy runs in the family run is really cool, and it's something I hadn't seen before in a comic. He's just such a cool character, and the art is really good in this run as well. And so it also just kind of made me fall in love with the character. It's been a while since I read it, probably back since when it came out, but that's a really good comic. Next we have one that is more indie. A lot of people probably wouldn't have heard of it. This is a Nightfall and Vault Comics comic. It's called The Rush. This hungry earth reddens under snow-clad hills. This comic is really short. You can buy the volume and you can have the whole series. It's only 6 issues, and I just picked it up out of nowhere because the cover really caught my eye, and I was really surprised and I was really pleased when I read it because not only is the art superb, but it's exactly the kind of vibe I like. It takes place during the Gold Rush. It's kind of like a Western-ish kind of thing, which, loving Red Dead Redemption 2, that is exactly up my alley. But the whole environment and scenery and the horror element to it is done really well, and it's something that's really cool to just hop into, and it's a quick read, but it's really worth it. But yeah, I'm not gonna give away too much because it's such a short read, but it's it's really cool, especially if you like horror stuff and you like kind of Western-ish stuff, then this is definitely a comic for you. It's a thing that doesn't seem to be done very often, but it's something that's right up my alley. I would definitely take the time to read it, especially if you like that kind of environment and a kind of mystery, horror kind of twist. Next is a character I also really love. It took me way longer than I wanted to start reading the Spawn comics. I watched the HBO show from the 90s, I think it was 97, Todd McFarlane's Spawn, and that show is incredible. So well animated, so well voice acted. Keith David is Spawn, and he just kills it, and it's incredible. But I picked up the comics, and, well, I had the comic. I picked up, they come in volumes, or you can get the compendium, which has like 50, which is honestly pretty worth it, because I think it's like $50 for like 50 comics. So I was introduced to it by the show, and the world is just so gritty, and it's so dark, and it's so... Spawn really defines and kind of created a lot of the anti-hero-ness in comics. I think it's still the highest selling indie comic of all time, for great reason. It's a thing where I picked up the volumes and I couldn't put them down because obviously I already love Spawn and I want to read the comics to, see where it originates from, but it's really dynamic, and the art, of course, is incredible, being Todd McFarlane, but you get all these different perspectives and angles, and his way of storytelling is really cool. I also love Sam and Twitch's dynamic, that we get that kind of buddy cop thing mixed in with it. But yeah, it's just a joy to read. It's just a really fun comic that is a little darker. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it has a lot of serious elements to it, and it has a lot of really cool designs. The Violator is probably my favorite villain of all time, and it's just so creative, and the world is just so fun to kind of ingrain yourself in and learn about. Next we have Gideon Falls. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Jeff Lemire. This is one my dad told me to check out, and it was a lot scarier than I thought it would be. When you're reading it, it doesn't seem scary, but it kind of sits in your head for a little bit, and you start to think about it, and it just kind of lingers in your mind, and it's that kind of horror where it's well written to where it sticks with you, and it's really something that is unique and something that I hadn't experienced before. And like I used to not read or watch any horror, so I've been introduced to a lot of that recently, and I'm trying to get into it because I'm really enjoying it. And this is the kind of horror that I really liked. It's a really cool story. The characters are interesting, and it has a couple different perspectives, and that's really cool. And also the art is incredible, and it adds a lot to the kind of vibe and ambiance that it is more moody and things like that. And the color palette also really brings that out as well. It's really dark. It's got a lot of grays and reds. The reds actually pop out a lot. They're vibrant, whereas everything else is kind of like really subdued. It's really fun to look at and really fun to read. There's some cool paneling in it as well, and you read it and sometimes you have to go back and look at it again, and it's something where you're like, what is going on right now? And I think that's really cool. I love it when comics do that. But yeah, Jeff Lemire, great author. Definitely would check that out as well. Ice Cream Man. This book is incredible. Also one of the first horrors I got into. The reason I like this one so much, there's a bunch of short stories. I love short stories, but with these, they're kind of loosely connected. So you're reading them, and every short story also has this aspect of reality to it, and relatability, and you really sympathize with a lot of the characters. We're basically being psychologically manipulated by the Ice Cream Man, kind of, in a way, and it's kind of heartbreaking to read sometimes. But also, as you're making your way through the issues or the volumes or whatever, I collect the volumes because I started reading it too late, but as you're making your way through the story, and you're putting these pieces together about the Ice Cream Man, and it's kind of like compounding upon itself, and you're starting to learn more and question more, and it's a really cool way of putting the story together, where you have these kind of like unsettling stories, but you also have something that like is grounded and solidified in each one. So it's really cool to read. The other thing is that since all of them are different, they're kind of different kinds of horror, that it'll really mess with you in that way. So yeah. Next one up, this is kind of a long read, but Superior Spider-Man 2013, the Marvel Now 2013 Superior Spider-Man run. Don't remember when I read these. It was a while ago. I do need to reread them, but I remember really enjoying the Doc Ock as Spider-Man twist, and it was, again, something where it was like a twist on a character I already know and I already really like, kind of presented in a different way, and it's something new and refreshing, and it's done really well, in my opinion. I feel like it could have been easy to mess up that kind of story, but I liked it a lot. It was really enjoyable to read. It was kind of like something brand new, but also familiar at the same time. Next up, we have Fables, Bill Willingham. These are really cool because, well, one, they're like an extremely different take on classic fables, like, you know, Princess and the Frog, freaking Jack and the Beanstalk, all that kind of thing, in a modern or more modern setting. And so it opens a lot of doors for, you know, interesting storytelling. It sounds a little like weird or boring at first, and I was a little skeptical at first as well, but it's actually really cool, and it's really fun to read, and it's done really well. It doesn't feel like fairy tales or anything, but it adds a cool aspect to it, to where it can be used in the story in an interesting way. And so they're really fun to read. They're collected in these volumes, and you can find them for pretty cheap at like secondhand bookstores and stuff like that. I get mine over here for like $5, and the good thing about them is that each one is like its own contained like mini story throughout a couple issues, so you get like a nice conclusion per graphic novel, per volume. I would highly recommend that. The last one we're going to talk about today is, of course, The Killing Joke. I would always highly recommend reading The Killing Joke. It's such a good short read, but it's really powerful, and it opened a lot of doors for comics and for Batman and Joker themselves, and it kind of defined a lot of that, being the most widely accepted Joker origin story, portrayal, and stuff like that. So it's really a milestone issue. I love it so much because it's so concise and it tells such a great story. The art is incredible, and it really makes you think at the end. That leaves it really fun to think about, and really has you thinking about the dynamic between Batman and Joker, and how that it kind of has you kind of reflect on their relationship in a really nice way. But yeah, I made a video on it. Check it out. It's not too long, but yeah, that's a comic I could read over and over again. It just will never get old. It's always fun to look at, fun to read, fun to think about and talk about with other people. And I think that's something that's important too, is being able to like discuss it with people and come up with your own stuff, and it just makes it a lot more fun. And that's something I like doing a lot, is talking with other people who like comics, because it's great to get other perspectives on it and stuff like that. So feel free to leave stuff in the comments. I hope you guys liked this video. That's gonna do it. I was completely off the cuff. I didn't have a script or anything, so obviously if I scripted it out, I would have like my thoughts more concrete, and I'd be able to express exactly what I like about the comics. But I just wanted to introduce some comics for people that maybe are trying to get into them, or wanted some recommendations for stuff I like or certain things, and shine some light on some comics that people have yet to try out or didn't know about. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want me to do an in-depth review of any of these comics, if you're interested in that, then also let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that. That's about it. Check it. There's plenty of comic videos on the channel. You can check them out. There's Berserk videos, Spider-Man videos, and that would be great. Share it with your friends. Subscribe.